Now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Jason Bermas. This is Reality Rants, and what should be front page news everywhere across the world really isn't in a lot of places. I could give you the search results, but for instance, I was over at the Daily Mail, which I often am, which is, Murdoch media, but usually better than most and a pretty good news aggregate. And I would think that Peter Nygard being found guilty on 4 of 5 counts of some of the most horrific abuse of women and underage girls is worth noting. This is a guy that many have called the Canadian Epstein, because not only did he have an island and was he into abusing girls as young as 14 allegedly, and we'll play this Chris Hansen clip, but he was also into living forever. And I've played some of those clips of interviews of him talking about trying to live forever or die trying. And I've even played the really creepy video of him and his friend trying to, I believe, buy placentas or something. I might get it wrong because it's been a while since I've seen it. But it was some of the most egregious stuff out there. This guy actually went to trial, and he was found guilty on 4 of 5 counts. Now, there is an appellate process, etc., but, we might as well do it live here. We won't hit the button because it's early. Again, let's get the thumbs up, subscribe, and share, and we'll type it in. See, there's Peter Nygard. See, I was trying to find the 14-year-old thing, but Chris Hansen's video came up. Let's do it. Okay, so let's go to YouTube. And again, this just shows you how controlled YouTube is. So we're going to type in Nygard. Now, first of all, when I type in Nygard, I'm getting, I have apparently almost 10 million subscribers. Good for you. I have no idea who you are. But again, this is YouTube. Look, there's some candy in the background, right? There's stuff about robot. I let robots give me a makeover. We're promoting the transhumanism. We're promoting candy and weird lipstick. I don't know this person from whatever. I would think news on Peter Nygard would be the bigger search on the second largest search engine in the world. Hey, what do I know? I'm just another jackass. So now we're going to go to the filters. Okay, found guilty in the last 24 hours. So we will hit today. Ta-da. Okay? Okay? So then we got CBC. And we got more CBC. And we got CTV. Now, I get it. It's Canadian, but this is a global thing. It wasn't just abusing people in Canada. All right? Global news. You're seeing a pattern here. CTV. Global news. City news. Okay, now we're getting 18 hours ago CTV when this first breaks. City news. CBC. Are we getting it yet? CP24, whatever that is. I would imagine it's something Canadian. I get it. It's Canadian news. Where's any of the United States? Where is it? Where? See, now we're getting past it. Okay? Here we go. Peter Nygard convicted. See, face replaced now. Can't buy my silence. The great Heisman. Are we starting to get it? Not one U.S. outlet. Not one. Not uno. I haven't seen. Now, look, it's in a 24-hour news cycle. Probably today we'll see some Associated Press, Reuters, maybe a blurb on CNN, Fox, MSNBC, maybe, but it's nowhere. It's nowhere what this guy did. And again, aside from the absolute repugnant behavior to women and girls. Total control freak. The guy's into fashion. Oh, another Epstein hallmark. That's what he was a fashion mogul. You want your hands on beautiful women and all the power that comes around it. Get into fashion, right, Les Wexner? A Wexy? A L Brands? A Victoria's Secret guy? That your right-hand man, Epstein, was allegedly at least telling people he was a big part of. By the way, there was an Epstein ruling, and I did not have that on the table. Again, we're going to do it live. That came, and I think it's another $290 million or $300 payment. Let's see, Epstein. Let's go to the news, and I'm seeing also a lot of misreporting on this shirt that what is it? King Bo or something like that. Well, I forget what his name is. I follow him. He's not a UFC fighter. He fought game bred MMA bare knuckle this week and actually lost to an ex-UFC fighter. Close fight. Neither guy really did a great job on that one. It was kind of lackluster. But two big guys. And Millender's no joke that he fought. There it is. Joel King Bowman. There it is. So MMA fighter. And he was just wearing, there is no client list. I get it. It's a meme. Okay. It says Trump was indicted before anyone on Epstein's client list. There is no client list. That's imagination land. That's not real. I'm so sick of hearing about it because I get it. It's a meme, brings attention to it. No, there's no client list. There are videos and pictures of people who are abusing children. Okay, and also compromised on a number of other things such as drug use, okay, and prostitutes, basically, that were above age. That's how you compromise people. So again, not a client list, videos and photographs of many people involved who have been blackmailed. Because that's the thing. They're not going to be prosecuted because they can be blackmailed because there's not a client list. I digress. We were coming here for the ruling. I forgot about that. See how that makes the news more? Here it is. Then J.P. Morgan Chase, okay, losing $290 million in a lawsuit for ignoring the warnings. See how that works? I didn't see this one yet. This is yesterday. What do we got here? Is sued for assault by female colleague at New York City job. So apparently, the person who snoozed and online shopped somehow was snoozing and online shopping. Okay. I think it's this woman right here during the Epstein case, who at first they were going to bring charges against both of them. Then all of a sudden that went away. Weird. She assaulted other people. Less important than the $290 million payout. Okay. Now, Nygard, legit human vampire, by the way. Like, everybody's running that, like, very much like Gary Oldman looking in Dracula pic. In fact, let's just type in Nygard right now. And again, man, like when I tell you, it did the immortality thing. Sorry, it auto-filled. So we got Nygard, like it's this series of pictures, and then this is the one right here where he looks like Gary Oldman in Dracula, right here. Dracula. We do it live. Sometimes we just don't have it up on us. I mean, side by side, Nygard, if you put Nygard's hair in like that, and again, you try to have fun with it. So a human vampire, somebody that was literally having the stem cells of aborted fetuses that he had created with women as young as possible and girls as young as possible that we know about, like 14 again, allegedly. That guy got convicted today or yesterday, and it's nowhere. No big deal. Nope. Instead, we're going to promote the girl who does videos on candy and robot makeovers. Listen, I guess while that happens, while the world is just so upside down and insane, at least I'll always have a gig pointing out reality. And again, Nygard's one of these guys they burned. And they burned in large part because, number one, the allegations were many and over the years, but too many people turned on him, including his son. So these guys, they work like gangsters and crime cartels and families. And it works like this. Okay? Your kid can get in trouble like a Hunter Biden over and over and over again. As long as they play ball and shut their mouth and go along with everything they're told, the burn will be minimal, right? No one expects Hunter Biden or Joe Biden or any of these people or his brother or any of that crime cartel to get in any trouble for all the crimes that have already been openly exposed. We're going to have hearings. There's going to be a special counsel, Jim Jordan, Coomer. Okay. Oh, we don't know they're criminals? I mean, again, I, as a human being with access to the magic of the internet, I don't have access to that laptop just like everybody else. Oh, I do. That's right. And I wouldn't be the only one. You know, I talk to Joe Hoft every once in a while. He had access. I mean, there's so many, anybody can get it now. All right. And just this stuff that's been put out shows just a marginal part of their criminal behavior that any one of us, if we partook in and weren't part of the power structure, would be in prison for. Multitude of things. But they play ball. Now, Nygard, although he played ball throughout, his son did not. We're going to actually play the video of his son. And if you can't keep your own, hush, hush, just like in the cartels and the mafia, you get burned. You know, you might not make it out. Now, you look at it like a Jean-Luc Brunel, another person in this weird network of fashion and spies, right? Like the guy openly wearing like Israeli IDF gear, the whole nine, while hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, like a big joke. So, yeah, people in that world, they get burned. Now, most of them aren't as high profile as the people we're talking about right now. But when your son finally comes out after decade upon decade upon decade upon decade of your abuse of people, that only got worse as you aged, Nygard, because again, you're a human vampire and you really did want to live forever. So the behavior gets more egregious. The son was just like, this is too much. It's weird because, you know, you look at his son and his son is everything that Peter would want to be now, like at least physically. Like you take a look at him, right? And then Pete Nygard, like aging and trying so hard to live forever, but you know, literally being like a Nosferatu. Nygard's son is like the spitting image of him, only youthful. Like, so there he is right here. You're going to see him speak. But that's what he wants to do. And he's willing, and he's so sociopathic, Nygard, biotech, that he's willing to crush anybody in his way. People are things, right? And that's going to get into a larger discussion today about religion and whether or not there's a God. And I'm not telling you what to believe, but there's a couple stories that I think are pretty interesting, right? One of them's the Greta Thunberg story that's kind of going viral, where basically, you got somebody crashing it because she's making a statement on the Israeli-Hamas situation. And the guy's like, well, I came here for a lecture on climate, not a political discussion. It's like, well, actually, everything that you're talking about right now is a political discussion and really a religious one on both sides. Because your belief in this climate Johnny nonsense, it might as well be a religion. And it is, and just like that, it is a political view. And then you can turn the Israeli, Jewish slash Hamas slash Islam conversation into kind of the same thing. Just point that out there. Point it out because that's the reality. We're about to go to break. We're going to play one of the longer pieces. I think it's like a 10-minute piece. I think it's CBC. Again, Canadians are getting some news on this. We're certainly not anywhere else. On the Nygard arrest, we got some historical stuff, him running around trying to be immortal. There's full-on 45-minute frontline documentaries on the guy. I do have a 15-minute piece, which we may or may not play, of just a couple of the women he abused and how he evaded a lot of this. So stay tuned. Again, thumbs it up, thumbs it up, thumbs it up. Subscribe and share, and we will be back after this word from our sponsor.
We interrupt today's programming to bring unfortunate news. Biden's dangerous plan for a digital dollar is underway. Don't be fooled. It won't benefit you. So take action now. The Federal Reserve's phased deployment of FedNow began on July 1st, 2023. Be prepared. This may catch many off guard and put your hard-earned assets in jeopardy. But here's the good news. There's a simple legal tax loophole to opt out of the digital dollar. Speak to someone at American Alternative Assets for a free wealth protection guide and discover how to safeguard your wealth with gold and silver IRAs against a failing dollar and volatile markets. Dial 833, the number 2 USA Gold. Yes, call now, 833-287-2465. This invaluable guide provides precise steps to transfer your IRA or 401k into precious metals without any tax consequences. Don't let Biden force you into using the government's new digital dollar. Call 833, the number 2 USA Gold. Yes, call now, 833-287-2465. Act swiftly, 833-287-2465.
The verdict came down here about 45 minutes ago. 82-year-old Peter Nygard, guilty of 4 counts of sexual assault, not guilty of 1 other count of sexual assault, and not guilty on 1 charge of forcible confinement. Now, Natasha, many of these charges go back decades. The 5 women who came forward in this case, the 5 complainants, their allegations range from the late 1980s all the way up to 2005. This is the first time that Peter Nygard has ever faced charges of sexual assault in an actual courtroom. There's been allegations, of course, floating around for years, and he's facing charges in a number of other jurisdictions, but this is the first time that he's faced charges in court. This case went on for a little more than 6 weeks. This is the 5th day that the 12-person jury has been out deliberating, but they did come back with news this morning that they had finally reached a verdict in this case. When the 82-year-old Nygard heard the verdict, very little reaction, if any reaction from him. He kind of just stared straight ahead. Of course, as I mentioned, Natasha, a long legal road beyond this case here in Toronto. We heard from Peter Nygard's defense attorney afterwards, the renowned Canadian lawyer, Brian Greenspan.
In fact, I don't think it's a straight line. So, and nor is there an easy answer to that. He has an outstanding matter in Montreal. He has an outstanding matter in Winnipeg, and the extradition, the appeal against the order of the minister with respect to his surrender to the United States, the decision has not yet been rendered.
So he's got numerous other cases, and there's a possibility of an extradition to the United States. Again, this stuff is from the 80s to 2005. I believe some of the videos that we've seen, especially that island video, I'm not sure how old that is, but it may be after the 2005 incident. You watch that video, the guy's never changed his stripes, right? Leopards like this certainly don't. And, this is essentially him running down, hey, there's a long road ahead for this guy. I don't think Nygard is going to see the outside of a prison cell or courtroom for quite I mean, for the rest of his life. I think it's over. I think it's a foregone conclusion. He's been burned, no matter what.
It was argued about 6 months ago.
Now, Natasha, as I mentioned, in this case, there were 5 complainants, but there was originally 8 women who came forward to Toronto Police. Mr. Nygard was originally facing 11 charges in this case, some of which did not reach a trial. Also facing charges in Manitoba, facing charges in Quebec, facing charges in New York. Dozens of women involved in a civil suit. After the verdict came down, Shannon Maroney, who's a therapist who has worked directly with some of the victims in this case, we could overhear her in tears talking to some of the women who came forward, who testified in open court in this case against Peter Nygard. Here's what she had to say after the verdict came down.
As one said to me, he got to live his whole life exactly as he wanted until he was 80 years old. And for many of them, they have been in, he's now going to prison, but they are still doing the work to get out of the prison of pain, shame, indignity, fear, lack of trust, all those things that they've suffered with for so many years.
Now, Natasha, a couple other things I want to mention quickly. Of course, what's next in this case. We're going to come back to court on November 20th, and that's when a sentencing date is going to be set for Peter Nygard, tied to the convictions we heard today. Whether he's going to appeal these convictions, his lawyer Brian Greenspan wasn't ready to kind of comment on that yet. I can also tell you that moments ago, Peter Nygard left in a Toronto police van. A number of photos I just saw of him. He was slumped in the back of that van in a black parka, much of his face covered. Tremendous fall for someone who was obviously once a titan of the fashion industry.
Not just a titan of the fashion industry, okay? Like, let's go to the clip. Let's go again and promote it by the media. This is 2014. Let's go right over here. I remember, I think I've gotten like copyright on this stuff before. Whatever, I don't even care.
One man, younger at heart than those half his age.
That man is Peter Nygard.
So let's turn it up just a little bit. And again, this is the same CBC promoting the guy.
And according to this video posted on YouTube, the 70-year-old fashion designer claims to have discovered the fountain of youth.
Look at my before and after pictures. I come from anti-aging to reverse aging.
He goes on to explain the science behind those claims.
I've been on stem cell therapy now 4 times a year for the past 3 years.
Stem cells can be turned into just about any kind of cell, which means potentially they could be used to repair damage caused by disease. But in Canada, it's illegal to clone them.
Nygard moved from Winnipeg to the Bahamas several years ago. He launched a biotech company in 2009, hired 4 scientists specializing in stem cell technology, and lobbied the Bahamian government to create legislation to further his research. He now says his doctors have made a scientific breakthrough, successfully changing his skin cells into embryonic stem cells, essentially turning back his biological clock.
This is huge. This is a game changer. This could eliminate all disease. This perhaps is immortality.
That's what they all want. It's very odd. They openly talk about, even the Kush Kush talked about it. Immortality. Again, and it's been a journey for so many. The fountain of youth, right? The tree of life. And now they think they may have some. Now, listen, stem cells are amazing. And so much of the actual wellness technology surrounding them, amazing. And I'm not against reverse aging or living your most fulfilling and, obviously disease and sick-free life as possible. I want all of those things. But this guy actually went to vampirism, basically. The stem cells of aborted fetuses from women he'd had sex with. And again, when I say women, as young as 14. I'm being generous there.
61.
But this University of Manitoba ethics professor who's been studying stem cell research since scientists cloned Dolly the sheep in the late 1990s says Nygard's claims are unfounded.
There is no magic stem cell cocktail that you can drink or inject into your arm that will make you younger or healthier or that will help you to live longer.
See, I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor, but healthier? Depends. It depends.
Arthur Schaefer says while the technology isn't there yet, there's still an ongoing debate as the science could also be used to enhance physical and mental traits in only the people who could afford it.
The use of stem cell technology to create supermen and Wonder Women has many people feeling very uneasy.
But Schaefer admits, if nothing else, Nygard's video will further the debate on the issue until science catches up.
I want to live forever or die trying.
I want to live forever or die trying. Okay, well, let's go back to where he is today. I mean, now you're going to die in a prison cell. It seems pretty obvious. Pretty obvious.
In this country, in North America, around the world, who faced dozens of accusations from women all over the world, from Bahamas to the United States to here in Canada, that he sexually assaulted them. He always denied all of those charges. But here in Toronto, many years later, many years after the fact, Peter Nygard convicted of 4 counts of sexual assault. And as you heard Shannon Maroney say, the victims in this case, obviously a day for them that they never thought would come, but obviously feeling tremendously vindicated. Natasha?
And we're hoping to have a lengthier conversation with Shannon later on during the show. But in the meantime, CBC's Jamie Strachan, thank you for bringing us the latest from Toronto. Okay, for more analysis on the legality of everything we've witnessed in the past 6 weeks, as well as the verdict, we're joined now by Hilary Dudding. She's a criminal defense lawyer, and she also joins us from Toronto.
So, you know, I've watched this. A lot of this is in kind of like fantasy land. Yeah, the guy can appeal. He can try not to be in jail, but they've already put him there. So we're going to skip this. We're not going to play this. Instead, we're going to play Chris Hansen, okay, talking about some of the more egregious things that Nygard was accused of. Chris Hansen is the have a seat guy, you know, one of the first guys that kind of pioneered outing pedophiles for who they are. By the way, I like Vlad TV. He does some really interesting interviews. So Vlad, shout out, brother.
Well, your newest show is an investigation on Peter Nygard.
Correct.
And I've been hearing about this guy for years,
yeah.
Way before he got arrested recently. Mm-hmm. And I had heard that he would have girls and everything else like that. I never heard about the underage thing, to be honest. You know, probably because the circles
right.
that I go has nothing to do with that. So I never heard that. So when I heard about all the underage stuff, it was like, oh, okay, like this is way more serious. I just thought it was some old guy who just liked a lot of girls around. But ultimately, there were some really interesting stories about abortions. Can you explain that?
He was obsessed, Peter Nygard was, with stem cell research and anything that he could get his hands on to preserve his health and youth and to create longevity. And according to many people involved in the investigation, he actually would impregnate underage girls, have them get abortions, and then harvest the stem cells of the fetuses to inject in himself under the belief that it would be more beneficial than random stem cells from another source. And that he would go to China and other countries to learn how to do this and have it done. And the underage aspect of this is, you know, a big part of the investigation too. But that's part of it. That's how far he would allegedly go.
You know what, right now, because we're going to have to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to finish that. But before we do, I mean, we've got the Nosferatu, Gary Oldman look. Let's see if we can find Chris Hansen investigates Nygard. We want all. There it is. Apple TV. Unseemly, the investigation of Peter Nygard. There's Hansen right there. We might even go to that clip as well. Thumbs it up. Subscribe. Share. Not even 100 thumbs up yet over at YouTube. We're the only one talking about the human vampire. The Canadian Epstein, the guilty verdict, 4 out of 5. I don't think the guy's ever going to see, again, anything but the inside of a prison cell and a courtroom for the rest of his life. We're also going to play the clip of his son talking about these things. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share. It's Reality Rant, second hour, okay? Uncensored, ad-free throughout the whole hour. RVMRumble.com. Back after this.
When I invented My Pillow, my passion was to help each and every one of you. And 20 years later, all of your support is what keeps us going. Because of you, we've been able to create thousands of USA jobs and help millions get the best sleep ever. To thank you, my employees and I are bringing you a limited edition My Pillow. The Giza Elegance My Pillow is made with my patented adjustable fill, the most amazing cotton, and a 2-inch pipe gusset. It has 4 custom loft levels, machine washable and dryable, and you get my 60-day money-back guarantee and 10-year warranty.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your limited edition 20th anniversary My Pillow queen size. Retails for $69.98, now only $19.98. That's right, get a queen size My Pillow for only $19.98.
From all of us here at My Pillow,
Thanks, America!
And remember, you can support both RVM and Mike Lindell by using that promo code RVM. Look, I want to do a little house cleanup. I reached out to a bunch of people to try to get premiums in. People like Jay Dyer, who I know people enjoy. He's out in Italy. Reached out to The Last American Vagabond, still trying to put that together. I couldn't find anybody to do interviews with this weekend. They may end up being special reports, but I do want to say this. If you are supporting us, and I just got another year-long subscriber over at redvoicemedia.com, there is now, when you sign up, a competition for a firearm. So if you're a Second Amendment guy or gal, and you're into the firearm thing, maybe now's the time for you to sign up over at redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Don't worry. Listen, I intend on bringing it fully back. I'm also still moving back and forth. And I'm also way busier with my nieces than I have been in some time, which is great. I love spending time with them. And they're actually hanging out sometimes during the fights now. Some fun UFC fights over the weekend. That's the kind of stuff that's important to me. Family is important to me, believe it or not. And getting that stuff done is just like the most important. And that's why it's so horrifying to hear stories like this. And then again, see like the guy's son be the pivotal piece of the puzzle turning on him that turns the tide of the situation and brings this guy to justice. Okay, so let's go back to Hansen. Okay, I want to continue that.
To extend his life and his lifestyle.
Well, he's 79 years old right now. So he felt that injecting stem cells from aborted fetuses from women that he impregnated himself would somehow keep him alive longer.
Correct.
And he kept doing that over and over again.
He did a lot of things. I mean, this is a guy, Vlad, who is being investigated for sexual assault going back 5 decades, involving potentially thousands of women in Canada, in California, in the Bahamas, where he had a compound, where he would routinely, according to witnesses, take underage girls, drug them, get them drunk, seduce them, and rape them.
I mean, you're hearing it. And once again, like there is that, maybe I can find if I type in Nygard Bahamas footage. I've got to watch this this Unseemly documentary. It's Discovery Plus, I guess. But again, just how is this not a top story? Everywhere. And I'll tell you how. Because again, they don't want to focus on the underage girls. They don't want to focus on the transhumanism. They don't want you to make the connections to the Epstein network. Instead, they just rather you talk about a client list that doesn't exist, right? And not this stuff. And not the baby-making ranch in New Mexico that was never investigated. That was connected to the late Bill Richardson.
In a most vile and vicious fashion. And we went down to the Bahamas, it's been a year now, and interviewed a lot of the victims, the survivors, and some of the people who were witnesses. And he was able to get away with this for so long because of wealth and corruption and a sense of impunity like I've never seen. And I've covered a lot of criminal cases in 40 years.
Right, because he's worth $900 million.
Correct.
He's got a fashion empire.
Correct.
And I guess he has a big compound in the Bahamas.
It's amazing. He is right next door to a fellow named Louis Bacon, who's a billionaire hedge fund guy.
And by the way, at one point, Nygard accuses Bacon of being a KKK member. It's like a whole thing.
And this part of the investigation, at least the Bahamas part of it, began over a battle over beachfront property. The stuff that Nygard was doing upset Bacon. Bacon filed motions. Nygard filed motions. It got nasty. The stuff that Nygard did to paint Bacon as this horrible human being in this misinformation campaign, it was just wild. But ultimately, Bacon was able to fund an investigation that unearthed evidence.
Wow.
That was given to the federal government that led to an indictment and a prosecution by the Human Trafficking Task Force of Southern New York and Manhattan. And that indictment was unsealed, and Nygard was arrested in Winnipeg, where he's being held now without bail, pending extradition to the United States.
And again, they were talking about that extradition. These other trials, again, he's got multiple, took place in Canada. So that extradition still hasn't happened. Now, that's the kind of extradition I can get behind. That's a good extradition. That's not like the Assange extradition, all right, which it's like the total opposite of that. In fact, if you look at the way the cases went, like you just said, he talks about this investigation into the United States and New York State trafficking, and then all the other dominoes fall as he's in custody. Okay? That's the unraveling and it taking place. It's like the total opposite of what happened with Assange, where it was trumped up charge after trumped up charge, and then exile, and then basically being forcibly removed and arrested from an embassy for a false charge. You notice the actual crimes never piled on Assange like this? The actual trials? No, because it's all show trials where, Peter Nygard, who got convicted of these things, didn't have to spend any time in a plastic box where he couldn't communicate with his lawyers. Just pointing that out. Assange did.
Right, and he's 79.
79.
So whatever amount of years he gets, there's a reasonable chance he's going to die in prison.
Correct. And I'm told by sources, and we did a series of interviews for a show that's coming out on my YouTube channel on Nygard, that, because he's not getting the supplements and the vitamins and the injections that he's used to getting, that he's literally withering away in jail.
Right, because Nygard K, which is the compound, has gotten visited by Michael Jackson,
correct,
George H.W. Bush, Robert De Niro, and a name that you've heard before in these types of circles, Prince Andrew.
Correct.
Correct. Prince Andrew. Correct. Should be a top story, not a top story. Not even close. So I'm going to play this clip of Nygard's son talking about a lot of these horrendous crimes. And at one point says, the allegations against my father are more than Weinstein, Cosby, and Epstein combined.
This has been an ordeal for me since May of 2019 when I saw something, I said something, and then Nygard and some of his corporate enablers silenced me within the company. 6 months later, civil suit came out, and it gave a voice to the voiceless, a way for people to see that they weren't alone, a way for myself and others to see that there was a very disturbing pattern of behavior that he was being accused of, and to examine how it was that so many people that were coming forward didn't have a chance to have their voices heard. As you examine this case, you'll see systematically voices being silenced. Whether it was a news report in Winnipeg that was shut off in the 90s that could have changed everything. Other folks who had come forward who were threatened with lawsuits where only recourse they had was to defend themselves, and if they won, they don't get any sort of financial relief from that. They just have a bill. And those tactics, along with other tactics, such as a jurisdiction loophole he took advantage of in the Bahamas, where he was assaulting people and they had no way to press charges. You find out the Bahamian police were bringing people back to his compound after they escaped, just to have them come back to Canada or the USA and speak with police, just to have them say that they have to work it out with the Bahamian police. Well, that's not an option.
How are you feeling at the verdict?
1 second, please. So, over the course of this period of time, especially after that civil suit came out, it was a very intense 10 months where we didn't know if he was going to be a flight risk or not, and we had the information that this was a very dangerous and sick person. I personally was absolutely heartbroken when I found out this information. I was heartbroken to find out that there were something like 12 or 13 accused enablers, executives that I knew who, according to the civil suit, knew or should have known something was going on. But what this also says is that when you do come forward, when you go to the police, there is a path towards justice. And I'd like to encourage anyone who's watching this who is a victim of abuse to see if you can find that strength. Because these individuals who came forward, they were qualified to come forward. Many people didn't qualify to come forward. So they're really speaking for all of them. And sometimes I'll read comments on some of these articles and I'll see people say things like, oh, how brave, you came out 30 years later. Well, you don't understand what they're up against. How would you like it if you had a massive lawsuit that they might take away your house or threaten to ruin your life if you came forward? So as Canadians, and I am a Canadian, I'm a dual citizen, we can use this situation to examine what happened and how we can look at the system to make it easier for survivors to come forward of abuse. And I want to give you something, a little scale most of you don't know. The scale of this crime and his actions, when you look at the civil suit, you look at accusers who weren't in the civil suit, former employees who wanted to come forward and don't want anything to do with money, just want to have justice. He has more formal accusations than Epstein, Weinstein, and Cosby combined. This is a victory for all of those in Winnipeg who came forward, who were denied justice. I'm thinking about Serena Hicks, thinking about Casey Allen, April Tellick, who does have a day in court, acknowledging Shannon Maroney for her work that she's done behind the scenes, tirelessly working behind the scenes to help survivors, and all of those who care about justice and are open to the idea of stopping predators from abusing and targeting children, using drugs to abuse women, and using tactics like jurisdiction loopholes or threats of lawsuit to silence their victims.
I mean, the kid nailed it. The kid nailed it. Nailed it on so many levels. That's why we let it run. Nailed it on so many levels. So we're about to take a break. We're going to come back. Final segment of the first hour. Second hour lives over at rvmrumble.com. Remember, rvmrumble.com, there's no commercials running through. And we do it for another 55 minutes commercial free. I mean, where do you get that kind of a talk radio experience? Only at redvoicemedia.com. And remember, we do it live here, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern time, but the feed runs through 8:30 p.m. and then it's on a loop. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share no matter where you're watching. And we will be back after this word from our sponsor.
Attention Americans, breaking news. Biden's dangerous plan for a digital dollar is underway. Don't be fooled. It won't benefit you. Take action now. The Federal Reserve phased deployment of FedNow began on July 1st, 2023. Be prepared. This may catch many off guard. Your hard-earned assets are in jeopardy. But there's a simple legal tax loophole to opt out of the digital dollar. Reach out to American Alternative Assets for a free wealth protection guide and discover how to safeguard your wealth with gold and silver IRAs against a failing dollar and volatile markets. Visit protectfrombiden.com. This invaluable guide provides precise steps to transfer your IRA or 401k into precious metals without any tax consequences. Be smart. Don't let Biden force you into using the government's new digital dollar. Visit protectfrombiden.com to get your free guide and get started. Again, that's protectfrombiden.com.
And we are back. I'm going to move away from the Nygard topic for a bit. We focused on it big time in the first 3 segments of the show and kind of focus on this like weird narcissism in our society, the why me victimhood mentality that even pierces those that have success. Okay. And one of those people is this Rapinoe. Megan Rapinoe, 38, played her final soccer game last night and was sent off after just 3 minutes with a leg injury. Now, Rapinoe said, this was devastating and it's proof there is no God and called it effed up. Okay, so you who don't believe in God anyway. And by the way, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but to think that, that's how self-absorbed this person is. And they're so delusional that they believe a sports injury, whether or not it's your first, last, or middle game, has something to do with a higher power. Because if there was a God, you would have had your fairy tale moment, Rapinoe. But even if you had your fairy tale moment, you wouldn't have believed it anyway. See the paradox there? And the idea that that's just the worst of the worst that could happen in your life. Yeah, it sucks. But I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there going through some tougher stuff, wondering if there's a God. It's just so crazy to me. Like, look, I'm not even telling you which, if any, of the great religions that you would supposedly adhere to. Okay, no clue at all. But you clearly adhere to none. You clearly. This is like the woman that's like, everything's bigoted in America. We're going to take a knee, and we're not going to, and whatever. Politically, you do your thing, but the idea that a deity's existence is based on whether or not you had a great soccer game or got injured is ridiculous, and it shows what a narcissist you truly are. It's crazy to me. It's like a childlike mentality, right? Like I remember as a kid. I guess it's kind of like a personal, maybe even dark moment. But I remember as a kid, when my father, I was like 16 years old, was lying in the hospital with like basically they told us he was going to die. And I remember seeing him before he got into the hospital. and seeing how much weight he had lost and how he looked sick. And I was like, this isn't good. Of course, he said everything was fine. He wasn't. But I remember praying to God and saying, please, I'd give anything to have my father live. Didn't happen. Okay. And yeah, I rejected God for some time. And even today, it's not like I'm into organized religion. But I look back on that as, a kid with a childlike perspective where everything was, about me. And that's not the way the world works. Okay? And bad things happen to good people. And you're going to have to navigate those things. And just because something tragic happens in your life doesn't mean there's not a higher purpose or a deity. And I get it. At the same time, we're accustomed to thanking God when something goes right. Great. There's no reason not to give praise to something bigger than you. I think that's actually a good thing, and I think it's humbling, and it gives you a good perspective on the world in general. Just my opinion. Who knows? Could be wrong. But also wanted to encompass this story. Greta Thunberg's speech to thousands in Amsterdam is hijacked by a man who told her, "I've come for a climate demonstration, not a political view." Climate demonstrations are political views. And all of this, Palestinian, Israeli, climate, it's all religious. It's all religious. Like, even, let me just say this. Even if you took the religion out of it and you wanted to make it about ethnicity, at the end of the day, the belief that one ethnicity could be superior to another is another form of religion. It's a faith-based belief, not in science, not in reality either. Okay? Like, not everything based in religion is in reality, because the climate thing is a religion. The atheism thing, when you really get down to it, as much as they want to tell you it's anti-religion, it becomes a religion in itself for most of these people. That's like Dawkins. It's essentially a religion for those people. That's it. It's a rap show. All right. So I got some other stories I want to hit before we go to the second hour. When we go to the second hour, we're going to go heavy on Vivek Ramaswamy. Ramaswamy, after the debates, take it on the mainstream media, not just that woman from CNN who's horrible. Also, what is it? Rona, what's her name? Rona McDaniel. She went on Laura Ingram's show, and she's just terrible. Terrible. We're going to expose that. Jen Psaki, the worst of the... Jen Psaki, who basically auditioned for her now MSNBC show, is still holding water for the Biden administration. And we all are supposed to just pretend. And that's one of the reasons I like Ramaswamy. He's like, come on, let's stop with the farce. Joe Biden isn't running. Joe Biden isn't running the country now. Joe Biden never ran the country. Think about that. I was thinking about that in a historical reference. Like, in Joe's mind, it's like, we did it. We got there. Just a kid from Delaware. We did it. I'm the president. But on the other end, if we do history right, okay, if there is some kind of semblance and victory for humanity along the way, if we do it to it, right, if we can get it done, then Joe Biden will look like and be reported on as the most outward puppet in American history, hands down, bar none. Nobody like him before, and hopefully nobody like him afterwards. Like, no matter how much there were people behind the scenes and presidential puppets before, it's just not even on the scale with Joe Biden. It's not even on the scale. And Jen Psaki is up here just like telling you that if Trump gets back in, it's the end of democracy, it's martial law, it's the arrest of his political opponents. It's insane. Like, he's the one that's been arrested. He's the one that's been prosecuted by the political opponents. He's the one that got spied on. He's the one that basically was the victim of the techno-fascism. That doesn't make him perfect. That doesn't make him beyond critique. That doesn't make me MAGA to point these things out, because I'm none of those things. In fact, you had Tim Scott drop out again. He was pretty much out the moment he ran, Tim Scott. Tim Scott suddenly drops off 2024 race after revealing his girlfriend in shock announcement that even blindsided his own staff. Why? He has no charisma. He was terrible. The girlfriend thing was ridiculous. And they're showing Ramaswamy at the polls, right? I guess Chris Christie will stick around. Excuse me. Try to be there for the next debate. It's a bad joke. That guy's a bad joke. He's there for more establishment talking points. And I watched the cold open of SNL. The guy who does Trump is dead on. I've actually talked about this. He's spot on. But then the things that he's saying, not only some of it kind of funny, but playing up the Ramaswamy angle, says crazy things, a lot like me, but can't be my base because he's not white. That's insane. That's insane that you would think that any Republican or conservative or independent voter would be against Vivek Ramaswamy because he's not a white guy. They love playing up the white thing. The white thing on SNL. It's ridiculous. I have yet to be in a circle of Trump supporters or at a rally or covering the news or at a forum or at the Reawaken America tour or anything or at the Red Pill convention where white supremacy or whiteness or racism against some other person of another color was in the topic of discussion or was brought up casually. It's asinine. It's asinine and it's dishonest. It's funny because I'm watching Andrew Callahan. And by the way, I reached out to Callahan to try to get him on my show. Also, there's another person I reached out to early. I was trying to have that be the premium for the weekend. And this is the guy who I felt like he was going to punk G. Edward Griffin and all this other stuff. And I put him on camera. And I'm watching him in Canada with the guy from the Full Send podcast, who I see hanging out with Hasbullah and whatever in a bunch of memes or videos. And they're up in Canada. And he starts talking about Canadian. What's the difference between Canada and the United States? And he goes, Canada's less racist. And I'm like, is it? I guess I'm not there. I don't know. But how racist do you think America is in general? I just don't see it. Even with the media trying to stoke the flames of racism all the time, I just don't see it. I don't live it in my house. My nieces are black girls. I'm not saying that they've, never had a racial comment or slur or been the victims of racism. It doesn't, permeate our life. It's not something that's like a topic that, boy, we're concerned about all the time. Almost never. Right? I've got nothing but compliments on my nieces. If somebody had some dirty, backhanded thought or something to say, so be it. That's the world. It's the world we live in. But I haven't seen it. I don't know. We're about to go to the final break before the second hour. The second hour lives at rvmrumble.com. Plenty of clips that we're going to be going over with Vivek, with not only Jen Psaki, but what else do I have there? I think I have another. Oh, yeah, that's right. We have a great clip from journalist Alex Newman. I think it's the dude from the Mises, and maybe it's not the Mises Institute. He's always, it's not the Mises Institute, it's something else. He's always on with the Tucker, and it's just this small piece on the control of the food supply and control the population. That's really good. We're going to be playing that as well. We're going to come back really briefly at YouTube. Although, what happened to Rockfin? Rockfin cut off? That's very odd. Didn't see that happening. Almost. When did it cut off? Interesting. The feed cannot be played. Interesting. So, I hate doing this before. I'm going to take a look into what happened there while we do it to it and we play the last ad. Geez, that's very, very odd. Very odd. Because it did start, right? Yeah, definitely started. We definitely queued it right up.
If you're like me and you want to be prepared for the unexpected,
that's where the wellness company's emergency medical kit comes
over
in.
40% of Americans say that they would avoid a doctor or a hospital unless it was a catastrophic situation.
Medical emergency kits with...
The kit contains 8 potentially life-saving medications for you to keep on hand in the event of natural disasters, supply chain shortages, medical emergencies, or like an apocalyptic situation. These are the actual medications that you would need in the event of certain situations. So they've got emergency antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics.
Yeah, just checked it, and I guess it cut off after like 33 minutes. I guess it has to be reposted after that. But if you're watching on YouTube, you know the deal. RVMRumble.com, RVMRumble.com. You're going to find that second hour for free at RVMRumble.com. Remember, it's also commercial free all the way up until the end. You're not going to want to miss it. You want to support the broadcast. It's redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. YouTube.